The moon was rising gently over the quiet little town of Maple Hollow, where the chimneys puffed soft clouds and the windows glowed with the golden light of bedtime stories and warm cocoa. In one small house at the end of Buttercup Lane, a little boy named Milo was lying in bed, wrapped in a cozy quilt stitched with stars and moons and dream clouds. His curtains fluttered slightly in the breeze, and outside, the sky was glittering with the clearest, sparkliest stars of the whole week. Milo loved bedtime more than anything, especially on nights like this, when the sky looked like a blanket of magic. He liked to stare out his window just before sleep and whisper little wishes to the stars. Tonight, as the clock ticked softly and the world slowed down, Milo pressed his nose to the glass and spotted a single star that looked just a little sleepier than the others. It twinkled slower. It drooped a little. It even wobbled in place. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. You're tired, too, huh? Milo whispered with a smile. Me too. He placed his hand on the windowpane and gently whispered his wish for the night. I wish I could help a star fall asleep. Then, something incredible happened. The sleepy star blinked, once, twice, and then, with a slow, graceful swoop, it began to drift down from the sky like a feather on the wind. It twirled gently, leaving behind a ribbon of soft golden dust that shimmered like morning dew. Milo gasped, sitting straight up in bed as the glowing star floated lower and lower, until with a soft poof, it landed in the middle of his backyard. A quiet hush fell over the house. The wind held its breath. Even the trees outside seemed to lean in to see. Milo slipped out of bed, tiptoed to the back door in his fuzzy socks, and creaked it open. The backyard, usually filled with grass and daisies, now glowed with the softest light he had ever seen. And right in the middle of it, nestled in a tiny dip of clover and moss, was a real, live star, round, glowing, with tiny flickers of sleepiness blinking from its golden surface. It made a tiny sigh. Milo stepped outside slowly, his heart filled with wonder. Hello, he whispered. Did you fall because you're too sleepy to shine? The little star blinked up at him, its glow pulsing like a gentle heartbeat. And that's when Milo knew, tonight was going to be a very special bedtime indeed. Milo knelt slowly beside the glowing star, the cool grass tickling his knees and the quiet night wrapping gently around him like a soft scarf. The star looked up at him with sleepy sparkles swirling just under its glowing surface, like tiny galaxies made of candlelight and dreams. It didn't speak with words, but Milo felt like it understood him. Maybe stars didn't need words. Maybe stars just shimmered the feelings they carried inside. Are you okay? Milo asked gently. Did you fall by accident? The star blinked once, and its light dimmed just a little. Then it let out the tiniest yawn, a little sound like wind through wind chimes, barely there but filled with sleepiness. Milo smiled, his eyes wide and kind. You are tired, he said softly, as if talking to a kitten that had wandered in from the rain. He reached out and touched the star gently. Its surface was warm, not hot like fire, but cozy, like holding a mug of cocoa after playing outside on a chilly day. The moment his fingers brushed the glowing star's edge, he felt it, a soft thrum of comfort, like a lullaby hiding inside a heartbeat. The star shimmered faintly, then pulsed in rhythm with Milo's breath. You're safe here, Milo whispered, glancing around at the backyard, now softly lit by the star's sleepy glow. His mother's flower pots lined the garden fence like sleepy sentries, and the little windmill by the gnome statue spun slowly in the night breeze. It was the perfect place for a tired star to rest. Then Milo had an idea. Wait right here, he whispered excitedly. He tiptoed back inside the house, careful not to wake anyone. He grabbed his favorite pillow, fluffy and cloud white, and his softest blue blanket that smelled just a little like lavender in bedtime. On his way back, he also picked up a picture book with golden stars on the cover, just in case the little visitor wanted a story. Back outside, the star was still nestled in the mossy patch, its glow softer now, like it was blinking slower with each passing moment. Milo gently laid the pillow beside it and tucked the star in with the blanket. The star made a soft fizzle-pop sound, like it was sighing with relief. "You've probably been shining all night," Milo said, curling up next to it. "You deserve a rest." He opened the picture book and began to read slowly. His voice was soft, gentle, like a feather brushing against a dream. The story was about a cloud who wanted to be a kite, and even though he was reading it out loud, Milo could tell the little star liked it. Every time he turned a page, the star's glow flickered in delight, then dimmed a bit more, like it was slowly relaxing, letting go of its twinkle for the night. When the book was done, Milo leaned back and looked up at the sky. There was a tiny, empty spot where the sleepy star used to shine. The rest of the stars twinkled gently, as if watching and waiting for their friend to return when it was ready. Milo looked back down. The little star was almost fully dim now, glowing faintly like a firefly ready to rest. "Do you want to stay the night?" he asked quietly. The star gave a tiny flicker that felt like a yes. Milo grinned and looked around. "We could build you the coziest spot ever. Better than any sky cloud." He thought for a moment, then got to work. With careful hands and quiet steps, he began building a little star nest from things around the backyard. He used soft moss, some rose petals from the flower beds, a cottony scarf he'd left on the porch, and a handful of dandelion fluff he found floating near the fence. It wasn't big, but it was perfect, a resting nook for a tired star. When he placed the star gently into the nest, it gave off a soft ring, like a lullaby's final note before sleep. Milo sat beside it again and whispered, "You can stay as long as you like. We don't mind. Stars need naps too." As he lay back and watched the sleepy star curl into its glowing bed, Milo yawned himself. The wind sang a soft tune through the trees, and the shadows around them seemed to tuck in tighter, like a blanket being pulled up just a little higher. Milo's eyes grew heavier. The sleepy star flickered once more, just a shimmer now, and as its light pulsed in time with the cricket songs and windmill spins, Milo's own breathing slowed. Two small dreamers, side by side. One from the earth. One from the sky. And the night watched over them with a smile. The night drifted on like a floating feather, slow and gentle, wrapped in the hush of sleeping leaves and twinkling skies. Milo and the little star rested peacefully in their backyard nest, the kind of quiet that only comes when the whole world is listening to dreams. But something magical was just beginning. Though the star had dimmed down into a cozy glow, it wasn't fully asleep yet. Its light pulsed softly in rhythm with the night sounds, crickets chirping gently, the creak of a swing in the breeze, and the distant rustle of the tall trees at the edge of the yard. Milo stirred slightly under his blanket, not fully awake, but just aware enough to notice something new. From somewhere above, a soft shimmer floated down, like sparkling mist made of moonlight and song. It settled gently on the little star, and with a faint ping, the star blinked slowly and floated upward, just a few inches. Not high, not fast. Just enough. Milo blinked open his eyes sleepily, rubbing them with the back of his hand. "Wah, what's happening?" he whispered. The star didn't speak. But a tiny, dreamlike hum surrounded it. And then, something incredible happened. From the shadowy trees at the edge of the yard, small creatures began to appear, slowly, kindly, not making a sound. They were not animals Milo had ever seen. One looked like a walking dandelion puff, glowing gently at its center. Another looked like a tiny moon with wings. A third had petals for ears and carried a book made of starlight and ribbon. They weren't scary. They weren't loud. They were calm, glowing dream creatures, drawn to the light of the sleepy star. Milo sat up quietly, still wrapped in his blanket, and watched in awe as they gathered around the star's nest, bowing their tiny heads as if greeting an old friend. One by one, they reached into their satchels and dropped something soft and glowing into the nest, pieces of dreams. The moon-winged creature looked up at Milo and blinked slowly, kindly. "You made the star feel safe," it said in a voice that was no louder than a yawn. "Now the dreams can grow." Milo whispered back, "Dreams? You mean like bedtime dreams?" The petal-eared one nodded. "Every star carries dreamlight. When it rests, it shares them. And tonight, because you welcomed it, the dreamlight can bloom." Just then, the nest began to shimmer. The soft moss and scarf, the rose petals and dandelion fluff, all of it started to glow in swirling patterns of gold, blue, and silver. The sleepy star hovered just above the center, spinning slowly, its light soft but steady. Then, like a lantern filling with fireflies, the nest began to glow brighter, not blinding, but warm, like a soft nightlight that reached all the way to the sky. A gentle breeze stirred the garden, and Milo heard the faintest whisper of laughter and wishes swirling around them. "It's making dreams," Milo murmured, eyes wide. The creatures nodded. "For every child nearby who's falling asleep right now," one said softly. "For the baby fox under the porch. For the twins in the yellow house on Maple Street. For the little girl in the upstairs window who's scared of thunder." Milo looked up at the sky. The stars above had grown stiller, like they were watching, waiting. A hush spread even deeper across the neighborhood, like the houses and trees and clouds were all leaning in, listening to the dreamlight. Then, something stirred inside the star. A swirl of colors, gentle and slow, flowed outward from its center. And in those colors, Milo could see scenes, like tiny floating memories. A boy flying on a cloud shaped like a turtle. A kitten napping in a pocket made of leaves. A book that whispered lullabies when you turned its pages. A cup of cocoa that never got cold. The dreamlight spread out gently across the grass, lifting and drifting over the fences, down the sidewalks, through open windows, and into homes. Milo looked at the creatures. "Is it helping people sleep?" The one with the moon wings gave a soft nod. "Only the kindest dreamers can guide a sleepy star. Tonight, you did that." Milo felt something warm bloom in his chest. Not just excitement. Not even pride. It was something softer, like when you hug a friend just because they need it. Like when you give your last cookie to your little brother because it makes him smile. It was the feeling of being part of something beautiful. And the best part? It felt like a dream. But Milo was wide awake. The creatures turned back toward the trees, their work finished. One by one, they floated or twinkled or glided back into the shadows, like they'd never been there at all. But the soft scent of star moss and dream feathers lingered in the air. Milo looked at the sleepy star again. It had returned to its cozy glow, nestled back in the nest, breathing gently like it was almost asleep now. He scooted close to it and whispered, "Thank you for coming here." The star pulsed once, like a blink. Then Milo curled back under his blanket and laid beside it, eyes fluttering closed. The dreamlight still shimmered softly across the neighborhood, and the sleepy star blinked slower and slower, its glow now humming a lullaby only Milo could hear. And high above, the stars in the sky twinkled calmly, as if whispering, "Good job, little dreamer. You helped the sky rest tonight." The night deepened like a soft velvet blanket, wrapping gently around Maple Hollow, and Milo lay curled beside the sleepy star, both tucked into their dream nest under the wide, whispering sky. The backyard had become something else entirely, no longer just a patch of grass behind a house, but a magical haven where stars could rest and dream creatures could gather, and bedtime itself shimmered in the air like dew. Milo was still awake, barely. His eyes were heavy, but his heart was so full of wonder that he didn't want to close them just yet. The star was glowing quietly beside him, its light warm and steady, and above them, the sky had changed. It wasn't just twinkling anymore, it was moving. Slowly, gently, like a giant mobile made of glowing shapes and drifting clouds. Milo blinked and rubbed his eyes, thinking he must be dreaming, but everything felt so real. Then, just beyond the garden gate, he saw something even more magical, a soft flickering path made of starlight footprints. They weren't on the ground, they hovered just an inch above it, glowing faintly and pulsing like sleepy heartbeats. Each step shimmered in time with the little stars breathing. And then Milo heard it, a sound like bells wrapped in marshmallows. Not loud. Not sharp. Just soft and silvery and distant, ting-ting, ting-ting. It was coming closer. He sat up slowly and gasped, not in fear, but in awe. A creature was approaching. It had long, feathery legs like a crane, fur like clouds rolled into pillows, and eyes like puddles of moonlight. On its back was a floating basket made of woven fog and silver thread, and inside the basket were dozens, maybe hundreds, of tiny glowing stars. Some twinkled, some pulsed, some blinked like they were still waking up from naps. The creature stopped just at the edge of the glowing nest and bent its head in greeting. "Hello?" Milo whispered. The creature gave a small, musical hum. "I am the Star Shepherd," it said in a voice like bedtime itself, slow, gentle, and full of warmth. "I travel the skies, gathering sleepy stars when they can shine no more." But this one, it nodded to the little glowing star beside Milo, was too tired to wait. Milo looked down at the star and patted its soft, warm surface. "It landed in our yard," he said. "I didn't know stars could get that tired." "They do," said the Star Shepherd kindly. "Even the brightest ones. When they give and give, they need rest. Just like you." Milo smiled softly and nodded. "I helped it sleep. And it gave dreams." The Star Shepherd's eyes twinkled. "You did more than help. You reminded the star that resting is just as important as shining." And now, it lowered its long neck closer to Milo. "It wants you to see what happens next." The shepherd turned, and from its basket, one of the small stars floated upward and gently circled Milo. It pulsed slowly, then dipped down toward his hands. Milo held them out instinctively, and the tiny star nestled in his palms, warming his fingertips like the first touch of morning light. Then everything changed. The backyard shimmered, and suddenly Milo was no longer sitting on grass, he was floating. The nest, the sleepy star, the flowers, even the garden gnome, all rose into the sky with him. He didn't feel wind or fear. Just weightlessness. Comfort. As if the universe itself was tucking him in. Clouds rolled gently around them, puffed and sleepy, and the stars above grew bigger, closer, and more friendly. Milo looked around, wide-eyed, as sparkling orbs floated past, each one a tiny memory, a dream, or a sleepy creature on its way to slumber. "Is this the sky's dream?" Milo asked. The Star Shepherd nodded, drifting alongside him. "This is dream space, where wishes float before they become dreams." Milo saw a floating castle made of lullabies. A jellybean boat sailing on a river of chocolate milk. A dragon napping under a mountain of books that whispered stories when you touched the covers. And there was a little girl playing hopscotch on clouds, her giggles forming stars. He reached for one of the clouds and his fingers passed through it like mist, warm and soft and glittering. Then the sleepy star beside him gave a slow, contented hum. The Star Shepherd turned. "It is ready to return." "Return?" Milo asked, blinking. "To the sky," said the shepherd. "Now that it has rested, it will shine again, brighter and softer. Its glow will be filled with the dreams you gave it tonight." Milo looked at the star, already glowing stronger than before. It circled him once, gently, and pulsed 3 times in a soft rhythm. "Thank you." Milo smiled. "Will I ever see it again?" The shepherd lifted its moonlight eyes. "Every time you look at the sky and feel warm, that's it, remembering." With that, the shepherd bowed its head, and the nest began to float down, back toward the yard, where everything waited just as they had left it. As they drifted lower, Milo could see his house, the windmill, the fence, and the blanket he'd left behind, all wrapped in the soft silver glow of dreamlight. The moment the nest touched the grass, the sleepy star rose slowly, gently, up into the air. Higher and higher, its glow trailing like golden paint through the midnight blue sky. Milo stood and waved as it disappeared back into the stars. "Good night," he whispered. "Sleep well, little star." The wind carried his words up like a lullaby wrapped in starlight. And all around him, the night whispered back. The garden felt different now, softer, slower, as if time had curled up under a blanket and taken a nap. Milo was still lying in the starlight nest, his fingers tucked beneath his chin, eyes blinking slow and full of wonder. The sleepy star, now nestled quietly beside him, was no longer pulsing with exhaustion but instead glowing in gentle ripples, like the tide of a dream washing over the shore of sleep. Milo didn't speak for a while. There was a kind of hush around him, not empty or lonely, but full of stories the wind hadn't told yet, full of little twinkles hidden in the grass, full of every wish ever whispered beneath the sky. The star shepherd had walked to the edge of the garden and was quietly stretching its long, cloud-colored wings. They shimmered like moths dusted with moon powder. One by one, the other sleepy stars in its fog basket floated upward and blinked awake, like popcorn clouds puffing into existence. Milo turned toward the little sleepy star still resting beside him. "Do you think," he whispered, "all stars have names?" The star glowed a little brighter. Milo said, tucking a flower under his chin thoughtfully. "I'll call you Wink." The star pulsed once, softly, sweetly, like a giggle that didn't need a sound. And then something magical began to happen. From Wink's center, a tiny beam of light spilled upward, painting a glowing path that stretched toward the sky. But instead of going up like normal light, this path folded gently down, curling toward the edge of the garden where Milo's old wooden tree swing stood. The swing began to sway, even though there was no wind. And then, twinkle by twinkle, tiny floating shapes drifted into view. First a pillow with wings, then a glowing teacup full of lavender mist, then a pair of slippers that tiptoed on their own. All soft, all glowing, all sleepy. "Is this," Milo whispered with round eyes, "a star's bedtime?" The star shepherd nodded from the garden's edge. "Just like you have bedtime rituals, brushing teeth, reading stories, hugging your bear, stars too have their soft ways of resting." One by one, the dream objects floated around Wink. The glowing pillow tucked gently beneath it. The slippers settled near the moss, and the teacup gave off a yawn-scented mist that made even the grass lean back and sigh. Then, far in the distance, Milo noticed something shimmering on the other side of the backyard fence. A tiny train. Yes, a train. But not a loud one with whistles and smoke. This one ran on silver moonlight tracks, its cars shaped like sleeping kittens, old books, and dandelion puffs. At the front of it sat a conductor with a marshmallow cap and twinkling coat made of stitched constellations. The train purred as it neared. Next stop, the conductor called softly, "Dream Glimmer Station." All stars returning, all wishes received. The star shepherd gently motioned toward Wink. "It's time." Wink floated gently up, pausing in front of Milo for one last snuggle of light. Milo smiled and reached out. The star rested against his chest for a moment, warm, calming, like a soft heartbeat that never had to rush. Then it floated slowly toward the moon train, where the door opened with a soft shhhhhhh sound. Wink settled in one of the cars that looked like a seashell bed, pulling a starlight blanket over itself. Milo watched as the train began to roll again, slow and swaying like a lullaby being sung by the trees. "Will I see it again?" he asked the star shepherd without turning his gaze. "You already do," the shepherd said gently. "Every night you feel peace, every time your heart glows for no reason at all, that's Wink saying goodnight." Milo nodded slowly. The train grew smaller, its lights blinking gently, until it faded into the soft folds of night. And then, the shepherd bowed low, giving a blink of its sleepy moon eyes. "You, Milo," it said softly, "have earned a place in the book of bedtime wishes." "What's that?" Milo asked with a yawn. A secret book, the shepherd said, that only opens when someone helps the stars rest. Only a few pages exist, and now, one of them has your name written in dreams. Milo's heart filled so big it almost burst with sleepiness. Can I read it someday? The star shepherd gave a smile so quiet it could only be felt, not seen. You already are, it whispered. And with that, the garden lights dimmed, the moss pillow fluffed itself, and Milo curled deeper into the nest Wink had left behind, his fingers resting on his chest, glowing just slightly with the softest star print you've ever seen. The backyard shimmered one last time, and the clouds above began to hum a tune so slow and sleepy that even the trees started to nap, waiting for the dreams that were still floating down, soft and silent, from the stars above. The sleepy garden around Milo was so quiet now, it felt like the whole world had curled up for a nap. Even the crickets had slowed their chirping, and the fireflies floated gently, their lights blinking in a slow, drowsy rhythm, almost like they were breathing. The soft moss beneath Milo's back felt like a marshmallow made of grass and dreams, and his eyes blinked slower, longer, heavier. The star shepherd had vanished into the moonlight, the last shimmer of its cloud-colored wings fading like the end of a lullaby. But Milo didn't feel alone. He could still sense Wink's warm glow in his chest, like a tiny lantern lit just for him, keeping him cozy and calm, even in the deepest part of night. The moon hung high now, round and gentle, watching over the sleepy town like a kindly grandmother. And as Milo lay in the backyard, a breeze picked up, not cold, not strong, just the sort of breeze that smells like warm cookies and feels like a bedtime hug. It rustled the tree leaves softly, and they whispered goodnight stories to each other in crinkly green voices. Milo rolled onto his side and looked up at the sky. It was filled again with stars, blinking, twinkling, dancing gently in their places. But one of them, one near the top right corner of the sky, gave an extra slow twinkle. A wink. Milo smiled sleepily. "Good night, Wink," he whispered, barely loud enough for the dandelions to hear. He stretched, his toes curling inside his fuzzy socks. He yawned so wide that even the garden gate creaked in reply, as if yawning back. His hands found the moss blanket and pulled it just a little higher over his shoulders. Just then, from somewhere beyond the clouds, came the softest sound, like tiny bells dipped in honey. It was the dream train again, far in the sky, gently puffing through a track made of sleepy thoughts. The little seashell car where Wink had curled up gave off a soft golden light. And if you listened very closely, you might have heard it humming a tune. A lullaby only stars and wishers knew. Milo watched it pass, his eyes nearly closed now. The silver trail it left behind curled downward like a ribbon, and floated into his backyard. It touched the tips of the flowers, then the blades of grass, then wrapped gently around Milo, like a sleepy promise. Everything was still. The wind settled. The night sighed. And somewhere deep inside him, Milo felt something flutter. A feather of a thought. A whisper of a dream. A tiny promise that now, whenever a child looked up at the sky and wished for calm, or warmth, or sleep, a sleepy star would wink back at them, just as Wink had done for him. Milo snuggled deeper into the moss. He saw himself floating with the dream train, through valleys of clouds and pillows, past stardust waterfalls and snoozy owls in fluffy pajamas. He dreamed of being the conductor one day, showing stars where to rest. Of bringing sleepy light to backyards, bedrooms, and blanket forts. And the sky held his dream gently, like a snow globe made of stars. Soon, a soft, flickering light from the kitchen window stretched over the backyard. Milo's parents stood at the back door, blinking in surprise at the sight of their little boy curled up in a glowing patch of moss, wrapped in a dream. They tiptoed out, not wanting to wake him. His mother knelt beside him, brushing a little leaf from his cheek. "He's smiling," she whispered, her voice like wind through lullaby leaves. His dad wrapped a blanket around him and picked him up gently, careful not to disturb whatever magic was still fluttering around his son like invisible butterflies. As they carried him inside, a single firefly blinked 3 times in the dark, blink, blink, blink. Like a wink. Back in his bed, tucked in tight, Milo let out the tiniest sigh, a sound full of dreams and stars and mossy pillows. Above the house, the stars twinkled on. And far, far away, perhaps beyond the Milky Way, a little sleepy star named Wink gave a final yawn, and settled into sleep. Good night, Milo. Good night, backyard. Good night, Wink. Good night, you. You are safe. You are loved. You are wrapped in starlight and dreams. And now, you are ready for the sweetest sleep. SHHHH.